talking movies. We're talking Aliens. Released in 1986, written and directed by James Cameron from a story by Walter Hill and Dave Gilter, starring the sensational Sigourney Weaver, the cute Carrie Henn, and the miraculous Michael Biehn. So, Kris, hit me with your thoughts.
Let's get it on. Why don't you put her in charge?
Game over, man. This was the first time I've ever watched this movie. Honest to God. I streamed it off of Crave. And I had a Mandela effect. I've never watched the theatrical cut of this movie. It's always been the James Cameron special edition. So when I watched it, I'm like, all these scenes, I'm like, wait, where's this? Where's that? And I'm like telling my kids, like, oh, I like this scene coming up, like the sentry guns. And all of a sudden, they're like looking at me like, it never.
So you have
happened.
always seen those extra like 16 or 17 minutes.
Yeah. Every version I've ever watched has always been that. Like,
so for those of you who haven't seen the extended cut of this film, there is some important information. So I would say, like, one is that you find out that Ripley's daughter has basically gotten old and died while she was in hypersleep. So that kind of gives her the emotional weight when she is dealing with Newt, like that motherly instinct. But when you just cut that out, you think that, like, oh, this lady's just kind of like got some crazy mom stuff going on or whatever.
Yeah, like you thinking back, like why I think the whole special edition or special, whatever you want to call it, extended edition is way better is because it gives more resonance to Ripley's story. You get more of she's a woman out of time. Like, she's been there for 50 years, frozen in sleep. And then to wake up knowing, like, at the start of Aliens, I'm going to come back for your birthday. She comes back, her daughter's dead. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there is also some more footage with the colony, like Newt's parents and stuff going out to LV-426.
Yeah, you get to see how it is there before.
Exactly.
Aliens, right?
And I remember seeing it a couple times and being like, wait a minute, like, if the aliens have been, running around this long, how did nobody find out about this? And it wasn't until you get that and you realize that it's not until Ripley comes back that Burr sends them out. And then there's some other lines in the film that make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he basically sent them out there to have this happen to them.
Yeah, sort of fine to see if she was telling the truth. Yeah, but it was more, you see more how the colony was more like a Wild West. Like, everything is about the claim. Right? Like, they're there to make claim to make money, right? It's just the grunts, like, just out there trying to make a living. And then the whole conversation, from what I remember, was Newt's parents discussing how much they're going to make if they actually do find something there from Burke, right? And that was the whole motivation, was money.
Yeah,
right?
Which is basically the whole Burr and the company's motivation for everything. So speaking of Carter Burke, Paul Reiser plays him, and an interesting piece of trivia with that is he did such a good job of being a douche that at the premiere, his sister actually like punched him in the stomach, like, you're such a piece of garbage for playing such a shitty corporate entity. You know what I mean? So, I mean, nothing says you did a good job like your own family, like, wanting to do physical violence to you, right? So,
What's happening to you all the time?
Yeah, on a regular basis. Okay, so, I mean, if you don't know, this is Aliens. It is the sequel to Alien, which was directed by Ridley Scott in 1979. This one came out in 1986. On a budget of $18 million, grossed roughly $180 million, which is about $422 million in today's dollars.
Number 5 all time for 86.
So that would mean that there was 4 other films. Like, this film was huge. That means that in 86, there were 4 other films that were that massive. So what were those films? Do you know what those films were?
Yes, I do. Do you want it, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, or do you want
No,
4,
let's like go from so we know number five. Number five is Aliens.
Okay, number 4 was Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh wow, really?
I love that movie.
But really? Like, I would not put that in my list of top grossing films of 86 trivia question, but fair enough.
Number 3 was also a sequel, Karate Kid Part 2.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I mean, I guess it was good, but it's not Aliens good.
Well, it could have been time frame too, 79 to 86. And what was Karate Kid? The first Karate Kid.
Was that 1980 or something like that? 1981?
I don't even know. But I think the time frame was closer to...
Oh, you're talking about like release date, like from when Karate Kid came out and
more
when
people
Karate Kid 2 came out?
Yeah. So Karate Kid 1 was 84.
Oh, wow. So like basically they made money, and they were back in the studio shooting it and out.
Yeah, so more top of mind, right?
So, and before we finish up with your last two, and so one of the reasons that didn't happen with Aliens, or Alien 2 as they originally called it, was that Fox originally wanted to do one right after 1979. But then there was a bunch of problems with people getting paid out the way they were supposed to off the first film. So that got delayed. And then new management came in, and it just stalled the whole project out. You know what I mean?
Okay, number 2. Crocodile Dundee.
The first Crocodile Dundee?
Yes.
Yeah, man, that's
because I didn't say 2 at the end.
Yeah. That's a sick movie, man. That's really good.
It's not a knife.
So, okay, so like what? I mean, those are all big films. We know of all those.
Your favorite, Top Gun.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I can totally see that. Top Gun is probably a perfect movie. You know, Kenny Loggins.
It's not perfect.
Fighter jets and like, you know, I feel the need for... It's got great one-liners, which so does Aliens, let's be honest. It has like great one-liners, really great character development. Lots of stuff gets blown up. Lots of stuff gets shot. Yeah, so that's it. So it was number 5 on the list of top grossing films of 1986.
Correct.
So Aliens, interesting enough, is written and directed by James Cameron.
Correct.
But he hadn't really done anything of note, not on a big scale, when they greenlit this picture for him. He had written the screenplay for Terminator, which obviously becomes this massive film. But it wasn't like he did Terminator and then they went, oh, wow, that went really well. Could you also do this? It was basically like they knew they wanted to do Alien 2 at the time, which became Aliens, and saw his screenplay and went, oh, okay, this could work. And then it actually so basically he wrote a 45-page treatment for Aliens. And they went, yeah, we're going to put that on hold because the original movie didn't make a ton of money. New management at Fox was just like, I don't know if this is really something that's going to go anywhere, have any legs, as they say. And luckily, because he was shooting Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, there was a delay because Arnold was shooting Conan the Destroyer. And because of that, Cameron was able to go back and write 90 pages of an actual script, which Fox saw and then was like, oh, wow. So if this other film that you're doing for the first big, massive film for us does well, we'll now also let you do this. I mean, that's crazy. Like, that's like such a huge amount of money to just put on a director that you haven't really worked with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think sometimes talent just speaks out, right? Like, for whatever you want to say, like, James Cameron is talented. Like, he knows
100%.
Story. Like,
100%.
people make fun of Titanic. They make fun of Avatar with the blue cats. But these are 2 of the top grossing films. Okay,
well, what do you think of the script of Aliens? Like, what do you think of the script, the dialogue, and stuff like that?
Like, are we talking the one I remember or the one I saw for the first time? The theatrical?
They're roughly the same script.
Yeah.
There's just some extra stuff in it.
No, I think what he does is he takes the homage from Alien and changes it from a claustrophobic horror film into an all-out war movie. And that's what Aliens is, right? It's the Marines coming in to fuck shit up, right?
And then getting fucked up. like the aliens rock them in it, like no problem.
True, because they were going in blind, but that's obviously story.
So to that point, when James Cameron was writing this script, he was really inspired by America's involvement in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. The idea of like a heavily overconfident group of soldiers that get themselves into a situation with a much more determined enemy that's maybe not as technologically advanced, but much more committed to the fight. And I mean, it's pretty obvious even when you watch the film, you're like, yeah, this guy is definitely saying something about American like imperialism and dealing with like an enemy that's much more capable than they are.
Yeah, but also I think what makes it good is it's just the pluralization that you had one alien that fucked up a ship the first time.
Yeah.
Now seeing what they have, adding the whole mythology of the queen. I don't like the whole like how she makes the eggs personally.
I just find it, so the queen thing is, it's gross, man. The queen always bugs me. It's well done. It's like really, really creepy. Every time it's like laying that egg, I'm like, ugh, like I don't like it. I really like the fact that Ripley, tries to fuck her up. But let's be honest, when we will get to that part where the reality is if Ripley would have just got the hell out of there, a lot of other stuff would not have happened. So,
what do you mean?
So Ripley gets Newt. She's, getting ready to leave. And yeah, she like basically is, threatening the queen with this idea of like, I'm going to burn up all your eggs. The queen keeps some of the alien creatures back. Mm-hmm. If she would have just like left, she would have been in a much better position. But what does she do? So first she lights everything on fire, which maybe that's fine. But when she starts shooting the grenades at the queen into her egg sac, that's what like blows up and allows the queen to like rip away from the egg sac. And then of course, what does the queen do? Chases her, kills everybody else, and rips Bishop in half. So, you could have just got the hell out of there.
Yeah, but that was, for me, that was Ripley's moment, right? Like that was her overcoming the fear she had at the beginning. She faced her fears with the alien, right? And she was just like fucking blowing it away because it's not going to scare her anymore.
Sure. And I can totally appreciate that statement. But I mean, the reality is this place is going to blow up in 5 minutes. You probably should be more preoccupied with not getting blown up along with this queen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But with all those drones or the little other aliens there.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have gotten out anyways.
But she did get out.
Yeah, because she was fucking blowing them apart.
She could have blown them apart. What I'm saying is by shooting the grenades at the queen, it allowed the queen to get out. And it wasn't any of the other aliens that actually end up really giving Ripley any problems. It's the queen when she comes up onto the deck and then she ends up getting on the dropship and getting back on the Sulaco. So my position is you probably should have just like, you said your piece, vamoose, man, like get out of there. I do want to talk about the writing is really, really well done. Like, typically you think like 80s movie, you think like lots of stuff blows up, lots of like muscle-bound people, Commando, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. The script writing is really good and the casting is really well done. Like the acting, like the actual level of the acting, and I don't want to like nerd out on that too much, but you actually feel like empathy for these characters. You like them. You care when they die. They are very three-dimensional, even some of the characters that are not on screen for a lot of time. Like Apone, the sergeant and stuff like that. Like you care that he's, in this crazy firefight and there's aliens everywhere and stuff like that. And Sigourney Weaver's acting is fantastic. Like, there's a reason that she was nominated for an Academy Award is because, even though she's in this like space army movie, she's not playing it like that. She's playing it real. There's some like real choices being made there. There's some real emotional range. Yeah, like I said, I think James Cameron did a fantastic job with the script. Would you, or can you compare since he wrote Terminator 2 and he wrote Aliens, do you feel that the writing and the acting is the same level? Well, first off, do you even agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe the story's good, and I think what he did in terms of Aliens was building blocks. He had to get to Abyss first, right? Write his little science fiction, just deep water stuff, but then build upon what he did on Aliens and make T2. But even take that and then writing True Lies, I think that takes what he did in both films and takes it up an even notch. And you can see like homages to him with Michael Bay and all that style. Is if you don't have any of that without James Cameron and how he writes and how he films.
No. Yeah, and I totally agree. Like his effect on the film industry and stuff like that. I'm just talking about like his dialogue, his character development in Aliens. And do you think that it was at the same level in Terminator and some of his other films? Obviously, True Lies is basically a dramedy. It's very well developed and very well fleshed out. It has to be because it's all character based.
No, exactly. And I think he does. And I think you could say in terms of him and the Alien franchise, even though like to me this is one of the best, like 100%. Xenomorph.
Yeah,
it was actually detrimental to the franchise. Like no one's been able to do what he's done.
Yeah,
right? Even Ridley Scott coming back.
Well, Ridley Scott and even was it David Fincher?
Yeah, David Fincher doesn't really
like these, but these are all like great directors, and I would say that. Okay, how do you think Aliens compares to Alien?
The same as Godfather 2 to Godfather. It takes upon it and makes it better.
Because I think it kind of falls into the same class as like Empire Strikes Back.
It's the perfect sequel.
Yeah,
like,
it's a perfect sequel. It's
better.
almost better.
Yeah.
Because you do have some background, right? Like you know about Ellen Ripley, you know about the Xenomorph and stuff like that. So this is actually an interesting fact is that Fox originally balked at Sigourney Weaver's rate. So they originally asked, she asked for a certain amount of money, and they were like, hey, James Cameron, can you just like get rid of that character? It's like, imagine Aliens without Ellen Ripley in it, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it's not the movie. Like that is, it's not the movie that it is.
That's the thing, but I think, well, if you look at now these prequels, right, it can work. Like, I liked Covenant. It's not as good as...
Yeah, but Aliens takes place... You know, you've got this script already written, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just like, oh... So, Sigourney Weaver's in every single scene of Aliens. So now imagine being told by the studio, go through every single scene and take out the main protagonist.
There's no way she's in every single scene.
She's in every scene. You should look it up. Doesn't mean every shot, but she's in every scene.
See, now you got me thinking.
Yeah, I think like I said, you can check after this and going back, and even just in your mind, just play it through. Like there is no section where she's not in like she's in every section and every scene of that movie. So imagine being told like you got to write that all for $1 million. This is what she wanted. She wanted $1 million. So James Cameron basically said, well, part of me doing this was that I was told that she was already kind of locked. So they kind of went back and forth, and Sigourney Weaver ended up getting $1 million plus a percentage. So worked out to be about $2.4 million in today's dollars. I mean, it's not a ton of money, not for a studio and stuff like that. But like, again, I just try and imagine Aliens without Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley, or imagine they had tried to just cast somebody else. I think that would be even worse.
I agree. Now, do you think? What do you think of the franchise now? Like, can it? I guess.
Are we including Alien versus Predator stuff?
But
are we talking about Covenant and all this stuff that is the prequels and stuff?
So let's say you're now Disney. What do you do with Aliens?
Man, I don't know. I kind of wish that they would kind of go back and maybe remake Aliens 3. What's his name there that does Chappie?
Neil. It was supposed to be 5.
What's that?
Alien 5, Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah. But it was also going to be kind of like Alien 3 because he was going to erase all that history. Like, and if you think like they did it with The Dark Knight and they've done it with tons of other franchises. Halloween, yeah. Where you just go in and you're like, we're going to just pretend this doesn't exist in this canon, right? I would love to see that. I mean, it's such a great concept, but like, you got to fucking do it right. Like, when it's cheesy or like the prequel stuff, like that's a whole other podcast, like to have that conversation. I find it doesn't really move seamlessly. And again, I don't know if that's just because I didn't understand it, like I'm not smart enough, or maybe there's like a director's cut I didn't see, but I definitely had some like high expectations. I was like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. But isn't this supposed to be also like 3 other films that are prequels that would bring us up to kind of Alien?
Well, I think it was supposed to be a trilogy. There's supposed to be one more after Covenant.
Oh, one more total.
Yeah.
And then we would have Alien, and then we would have Aliens.
Yeah, to my knowledge, though, if it ever gets made, but I doubt it will because of how bad it
did. You're Disney. You got tons of money. Just do it right. Please definitely don't go the Star Wars route. Again, that's for a whole other podcast. But I don't want to see a franchise like Alien get turned into just like, hey, can we sell toys and yada yada yada. Just bring in great directors, great writers, and you can move canon around. You can pull stuff out of canon, and if you're gonna do it right, sure, why not? And if you're not, fucking leave it alone, man.
You're like it's dead and buried.
Yeah. So, is there anything else specifically that you want to talk about with this film before we get into kind of the trivia aspect?
Ooh, trivia. No, I once met Bishop.
Oh, you met him?
I met him 10 years ago.
And how did that go?
Very embarrassing.
Did you like freak out and like fanboy or something?
No. I was at a Comic-Con and we're going out like up the escalator, and I literally like 30 minutes before that had a chili cheese hot dog. And then me and my buddy were talking and we looked behind us and he was behind us because he was there as a show. And then I let one go. It like total woof right into his face, right? And we just like look back and you can see it, but he was a gentleman, didn't say anything. Mm-hmm. But we bolted out there. I'm like, I just farted in Bishop's face.
So speaking of Lance Henriksen, who obviously, yes, plays Bishop, the android on board the ship, he met James Cameron working on Piranhas 2, which was kind of Cameron's big directorial debut, even though he didn't even start as the director. He started like as the FX director, and then there was an issue, and he stepped into that role. He was actually who Cameron was considering. So again, in The Terminator, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger, but originally it was Hendricks that was going to be the actor that played that role. Mm-hmm. So just imagine that difference of scale, you know what I mean?
Yeah, which I think if you cast him, it would have been more, instead of sci-fi action, it would have been more sci-fi horror, because you have a guy that isn't as intimidating as Arnold, just walking around.
Yeah. Well, if you think of like Terminator 2, the like
Robert Patrick.
Yeah. That's exactly. It's almost like he got to do what he wanted to do with that style of Terminator, and is just as deadly, or if not more so, because he doesn't stand out, and then obviously he can become whatever he wants to become. Mm-hmm. So yeah, some other interesting stuff. So Carrie Henn, who played Newt, it was her first acting role. She ended up winning a Saturn Award for Best Young Actor, and then never acted again. That was it. I guess, leave on a high note. One and done.
I don't know, from what I read, I don't know if it's true or not, but she got picked off of like a school. Like they just did a massive casting search, and then just found her like at a school. Her mom just took her or something like that.
Yeah, so you're pretty much right with that. Is that I think her dad was like an American serviceman, so she was already over in England, and they had been trying to cast this character, and they kept getting these young kids in that had done lots of commercials, and so the issue was every time they would say a line, they would smile. Right. And so, yeah, they managed to come across her at her like school or something like that. And she was just much more natural. And maybe it's because she hadn't done all that acting. But yeah, one big role, done. Now she's like a school teacher or something like that. So okay, so let's talk about Michael Biehn. So he plays Corporal Hicks. Mm-hmm. He had worked with Cameron on Terminator. He's worked with him obviously on Aliens. He was in The Abyss. He actually wasn't even supposed to be Corporal Hicks. It was supposed to be James Raymer from like Warriors and 48 Hours and stuff. And at the time when he was released from his contract, it was like artistic differences, But it turned out he just had like a really bad drug problem and had gotten basically picked up for a drug offense, and Cameron had to replace him. Like, I thought there was actually still a really small amount of footage. I think it's when the Marines first show up and they're coming in, where he's still the actor. No, actually, I think it's when they're in the reactor core because it was too expensive to reshoot it. That it's still him and it's all shot from the back. But yeah, they had to bring in Michael Biehn kind of at the last minute to replace him because he had all these like this drug problem or whatever. So
it's the first time I heard about that. Go, hit me. More trivia.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not so much really questions, but so the actor that plays Vasquez, Private Vasquez, Jeanette Goldstein. So there's a line, and I thought this was really interesting. So there's a line where Hudson says, which is Bill Paxton's character, says to her, something along the lines of, they said alien and she thought they meant illegal aliens. Mm. So that's actually true. So the actor, when she was going to the audition, she thought that, because the casting notice said they wanted Americans or Canadian accents. So she thought that the movie was about foreigners living in England. Therefore, the movie Aliens was just about like foreigners. So I thought it was, kind of interesting that James Cameron took that story and then actually worked it into dialogue. Or maybe it was just Bill Paxton improving. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what do you got?
Bill Paxton.
Okay.
Did you know he's the only actor to die by an alien, a predator, and a Terminator? Terminator 1, Predator 2, and Aliens.
Oh, Predator 2. That's right. That's interesting, I guess. He's also actually passed away.
Yes, but he's the only one to do it.
Okay, so Aliens, as you said, number 5 at the box office. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. Including Best Actress, Best Original Score, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Art Direction. It won 2 awards for sound effects and visual effects. And Sigourney Weaver, this was her first Academy Award nomination. So what's interesting about the Best Original Score is that when James Horner was working on the score, he basically had to finish the thing off in like 4 days or something like this, because Cameron kept like doing reshoots and moving the thing around, so he couldn't sit down and just like watch the movie and score it. So he had said to Cameron, listen, I kind of feel like this is only like 80%. And so his 80% still got an Academy Award nomination. So, that's not bad. Just like imagine what it would have been if he got 100%. Yeah. But there was so much tension with him and James Cameron that he thought he would never work with him again until James called him up and said, hey, do you want to work on a little film called Titanic?
Really?
Yeah.
Why the tension? Just because of the reshooting?
Yeah. Because, so one of the things that came up is that Gail Ann Hurd, which was the producer and also James Cameron's wife at the time, they had never really worked with a lot of music in their films, and especially scoring. So they just didn't get, like, I got to watch the film and then I got to sit down and I got to write a score that goes with this. So the fact that they kept like editing things right at the last minute, he basically had to like, so for example, the composition for when the alien queen comes out on the landing deck and the dropship shows up and stuff, he had to do that like the night before. He basically got the daily footage and had to like stay up all night and write that, because he just he could not get to see this film in order to score it properly. And I mean, again, and he got himself an Academy Award nomination, so that's not so bad.
He let the story out and people are like, that's good.
So another interesting factoid with this film, because there's all kinds of amazing special effects. The hypersleep chambers, they couldn't afford to build the 12 or whatever they needed, so they used mirrors in order to make the 4 look like, and camera tricks to make it look like they actually had more hyperchambers than they actually had.
Really?
Yeah. This is what happens when you do your homework, Scott.
Yeah.
As you know these things.
But question for you.
Sure.
In terms of story-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the chambers open for the first time.
Yep.
Why is everybody asking who Ripley is? You'd figure going on the ship, flying out.
Yeah.
Going to bed there, they would have still closed. There would have been a conversation like, hey, who are you?
Yeah, because there is that line like, who's Snow White or whatever.
Yeah.
But the pilot is well aware. It could be that they're grunts. They just may not be privy to that information. It's none of your business. It's above your pay grade. Actually, so on that note, most of the cast who played Marines spent 2 weeks doing a basic training to give them some cohesion and stuff. And they actually worked with 2 of the stunt guys that were ex-SAS guys, so at Special Air Service, who had worked in Northern Ireland. So they had like really, really created this like very believable Marine squad. And the actor that played Apone is actually like a fairly famous African-American Vietnam vet who was like the first African-American to be field promoted to sergeant, due to combat and stuff like that. So he even says, he's like, I think I only got cast because I was a vet kind of thing. So they were like this really, really, really tight organization. But Sigourney Weaver and Paul Reiser and the actor that played Lieutenant Gorman, they actually didn't go to do the basic training with them. With Sigourney Weaver, it was mostly because she was filming 2 other films at the time. But what it did is it created this very much us-them mentality between the cast and the crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which played on the video, like played in the movie, right? Because those are
absolutely.
the 3 that they're like, oh, he's coming in.
Well, and again, it's sort of like, we're all soldiers, we're in this together, and like the lieutenant's an idiot. There's the corporate guy, and then there's, she saw an alien, Mm-hmm. And that's I think where the line comes out. Yeah. Vasquez, you saw it, they said alien, and they thought she. Vasquez heard they said alien. She thought they meant illegal alien or whatever.
Yeah.
My favorite line with her actually though is the like when Hicks, is it Hicks or Hudson? It's Hudson. When Hudson says, "Hey Vasquez, has anyone ever mistaken you for a man?" And she's like, "I don't know. Has anybody ever mistaken you for one?" or something like that. It's fantastic. Do you have any lines specifically that you think are super fun or what?
Well, not just super fun, but there is one line that, since I've watched it, I've never picked up on what they actually mean, is when they're like, is this a bug hut? Right? Like, is this, like, do they know about the because they talk about, okay, there might be xenomorphic activities out there, so it makes it think like they've come across these before.
So there's actually a very good answer for that. So if you've read Robert Heinlein's Starship Trooper, James Cameron based a lot of specifically that specific term and some of the way that they fight. They basically pulled right out of Robert Heinlein. And so that whole comment about being a bug hunt is directly out of Starship Trooper. So it's more a reference to hunting aliens in general. Remember, like, it's in that world, there is other alien species. They're just not all these crazy acid for blood xenomorphs, right?
Is there other?
Well, because remember that Artesian poontang? And he's like, yeah, but the one you had, that was a dude. And he's like, doesn't matter if it's like Arterian or whatever. So like, there is other alien species that they come into contact with.
See, for me, I always thought it was just like, this is the only other alien species, and it's always Earth going to terraformers. Like, and Arterian was just another planet with like families there, and it's those daughters they're gonna go save from their virginity.
Yeah. I mean, you could be right. Like, again, it doesn't get flushed out. It's not a huge plot point that they really look at. So basically what you're saying is this is the first alien life form in all the known worlds that they've come across. See, I always took that as this is the only life form as described like this. But I mean, you could be right.
It could be. Because you'd figure in every other alien movie another alien should show up. Except for Predator. I guess, yeah, because there's Predator. Alien versus Predator.
But we don't know about the Predators necessarily at this point.
No.
So here's the big question. We've had a lot of like facts and stuff like that. What do you think of the movie? Like, do you like it?
Yeah. This is my top 5 of all time favorites.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie, right? And I think literally you can end it here. Like you just go 1, aliens, that's it, right? You don't need to go anywhere else because no one's able to replicate what Cameron's done. Well,
and even off the top of your head, like if you were to have a proper 3, like where do you go from it? Like was Newt implanted? Like Sigourney Weaver was 3? Never there there was never a situation where Sigourney Weaver's character or Corporal Hicks. So like how do you have a 3? Right? The aliens shot out of the thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens and airlocks don't go together so well.
So if you're gonna go like Halloween method, where it's just 1, 2, and then where would you go next?
Yeah, sure, whatever.
All right, you go to the alien homeworld with Ripley, with Hicks, and with Newt, with a bunch of fucking Marines.
So basically, but we don't know where the alien homeworld is.
There have to be somewhere, right? It's gonna have to be somewhere, right? You gotta find it.
I mean,
that's what I mean. Like you gotta go to where it's the one place every alien movie that they've done. It's always that egg in another environment, but there has to be an environment that's of origin.
Well, in Fincher's 3, how did the alien get there? Did it stow away?
It was apparently the Queen laid the egg
on the ship
before she came out.
Yeah, but everything's in hypersleep,
right? In which the alien broke in. But that movie doesn't really count, though, right?
Yeah, I have to go back and watch that.
That's not what Fincher originally wanted. Like, he even said if he ever had to do the movie, like, a director's cut, he would have to actually reshoot the
thing because he never got to do exactly what he wanted, right? What's your favorite scene? Like, what's your favorite section?
My favorite scene? Well, 2 is the one where she realizes about her daughter dying, right? Like that emotion, her rubbing her hand onto the picture, like seeing her daughter technically as an old lady, or like knowing what she missed out, like you felt it. And then the other one is when Bill Paxton goes down and he's just shooting down like, fuck you guys.
And that alien hand comes up and he's like, ah!
Yeah.
So I actually, I like, for some reason, I really like when the drop ship first drops out of the Sulaku. And it's like, they're like, woo, it's like sex in a car crash. Like, it's just so exciting. And then, that scene in the med lab when they're like, beep, 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 beep. Like, they're inside the perimeter, you're reading it wrong. And in the director's cut, you have those sentry guns that are just like, boom. And then all of a sudden, Hicks climbs up. And you see them just like coming towards him, and he falls and he starts shooting, and then it's just like carnage, right? Yeah. Like so action packed, and just like you feel like queued right up. Like you're like, how are they getting out of this? How are they getting out of this? And actually, when I watched it today, the scene where they're basically going through the air shafts or whatever, and they're trying to get away. Like I've seen this movie countless times, and you're still like, boom, 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 boom. Or like when Newt's in the water and they're trying to cut it and that alien just comes up behind her.
Behind the water. I like that one too.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, that's kind of all for me, man. That's all I've got, unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
No, we're good. So we both agree. We both like this movie.
Yeah, this Aliens is a fantastic film. It's got, to me, it's still not a perfect film. Mostly because for me for a film to be perfect in my world, it needs to have a scoring, but it also has to have like great music supervision, and it doesn't have any contemporary music in it. But I mean, the script is great. The effects that's actually a question I have. How do you feel about this 1986? This thing would have been like one of the most amazing FX driven films. How do you feel it stands up today?
I think it still stands up good. Like, I had my kids who've never seen it before, and they thought it was CG.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's guys in suits.
So that alien queen stood 14 feet tall. It took 18 people to use it. It was basically like a giant puppet. And when any camera work you see with the alien queen is the alien queen physically acting with the camera, just like an actor, which is mind-blowing when you think about that. Like, the amount of work. And James Cameron came actually up. So H.R. Giger is the one who did the original Alien design. And James Cameron basically was like, I'm going to design the alien queen myself. He made some small changes and stuff like that. And I think he did a fantastic job.
With the four hands?
What's that?
The four arms?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I agree with you. I think it's a fantastic film. It's got, like I said, it's got great special effects, great acting, great dialogue, and still so watchable.
Yeah, it doesn't lose anything, even though it's, 30... How old? Fucking 30... 35 years old. Or 34 years old.
And it still has a... I think it has a 97 or something like that.
Are you going Rotten Tomatoes? I can just Google it.
Yeah, I had written it down here. I just don't. Getting old. I can't see the small. Oh yeah, here it is. So it's got an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb, and it is on it's number 73 on their list of top 250 movies. Ooh, and 97. As of this writing, it was a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes.
A 94 by audience.
And 94 by audience. So, like you said, for a 30 some odd year old movie, that's not too bad.
No.
So, that's our show for Aliens on how'd you like that movie? And so, Scott, how'd you like that movie?
I answered the fucking question already.
Anyway.
But I had fun, and I hope my wife lets me come out again to do this.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.